everyone. Welcome to yet another exciting season of our Comm-UNITY podcast series, Season 9. This season, we get an opportunity to profile art practitioners in Uganda, Mali, Rwanda, and Cote d'Ivoire. We speak to them about how they have contributed to the growth and well-being of their communities using their talent and skills for philanthropy. Thank you for joining us. Today we have our guest, Mr. Andrew Kaggwa, and we are excited to hear from him about his views about African philanthropy and how that has showed up in the spaces in which he occupies and holds. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Well, it's good to be here. It's good to be talking to you about philanthropy. It's something we rarely talk about as Africans, even when we do it a lot, even when we give, we help, we rarely talk about it.
So tell us about yourself. Who's Andrew? What does Andrew do?
My name is Andrew Kaggwa, journalist, art critic. Right now, I'm also an artist in a certain way, considering the fact that I've started working with filmmakers to produce some of their films, working on a documentary film that I believe you know, putting together a TV series. Still, it's me working with another filmmaker, and also developing the script for what I think is going to be my next documentary film. I'm so excited about that because I've made a lot of mistakes, I believe, when I was making this one. And, when you're producing and you make mistakes, you get to learn. And I believe the moment I start producing my next documentary film, it's going to be game on because I know exactly what to do.
Okay, that's very interesting. What's your understanding of giving and generosity?
I think giving should always come from the heart. We should not give because we have a lot, but we should be giving because it is important, because we see the need to do it, because we seen someone that needs it and we have what it takes to actually help them out. For me, that's how I understand giving.
What's your earliest recollection of generosity, or maybe in your childhood? How was generosity introduced to you?
So I joined boarding school quite earlier than anyone at home. And that was because, I was very stubborn. I was a very stubborn child. So I think one time, I as a stubborn child, I really hated it when I had done something wrong at school. So one time I did not go to school, I think. Went and watched movies for a whole day. I actually noticed I really loved movies more than reading. No wonder I somehow ended up with the industry. So I loved watching movies. So my mom noticed I could just become another spoiled child. She took me to a boarding school. So one time when you were leaving, after you're done with exams and they're picking you to take you home, I brought for my mom some things I had kept, like things they had bought for me to eat and use. I was like, I would like to give you something, like from me to you. Mm-hmm. And these were some of my eats. And she was like, wait, why do you still have some of these eats? Why didn't you give them to your friends? And I'm thinking like, hey, I'm just giving you something, and instead of saying thank you, you're like, why didn't you give them to other people? Like, which kind of human are you? I'm thinking. So, but anyway, she was pretty serious because she talked about it when we were traveling back home. And then when we got home, she told my sister about it. Can you imagine? Andrew brought back some of the things I bought for him instead of giving them to some of his friends. And then she was like, you do not have to be mean. Like, I think mean was a mean word. Oh, like yeah, for lack of a better phrasing, I think mean was a very mean word. I was like, geez, that sounds rude. So I did not want to be mean. Like for this mean which people say that I abuse their films, that I don't care. That one I don't care. When people say I do not appreciate their art, I'm mean, that I don't care. For the other mean, I was like, wow, that sounds rude. I did not want to be that person. So I think after that, when we went back to school, trust me, I used to finish my grub fast, and I think I rarely ate any of that. Like, I used to leave my box open, like, yeah, you guys can come and have fun with it. But then one thing I noticed about that was the more my case was open for everyone to come in, is the more I never ran out of grab. Like, that grab would get done, but people would just generously, oh, Andrew, you need this, and they would give you without you asking. So, which goes back to the fact that the more you give is the more you receive. So for me, that was it.
Oh, that's interesting. So opening your heart to generosity actually filled you with more gifts from those people around
Yes.
you. So thank you so much for sharing that. And what motivates you to give? As Andrew.
You see, there are different ways. Like, at times you will give because you see a need. When you join the corporate world, like, man, the corporate world is messed up. For the corporate world, giving is a responsibility. Like, it's not really from the heart, but it's for the papers, it's for the media. Because when I joined media, I would be invited very many times for people that were giving out a borehole. Like you see, a multinational organization is inviting you to Karamoja. They are housing you in a hotel. They are feeding you. They are transporting you, and then they're giving out a borehole. Like it's a borehole. Like, I think me and my neighbors at home can collect some money and we give some people a borehole, and we are not even a multinational. So like, the very first thing I saw was that giving is very messed up in this world, and then it's always about money. So, like, they always try to quantify what people have given in form of money. I don't know if you remember the situation during 2020 when we had a pandemic here, and then
Yes.
and then companies started giving out things,
Yes.
and you could see people measuring how people are giving. Like, there is a company that gave, I don't remember how much money, but there were a couple of jerry cans. Truth is, I also don't know what the jerry cans were going to do, but it became a serious issue. People were like, wait, what? This company gave jerry cans. And then, of course, you remember even when the president was like, he's kind of tired of receiving, is it some things, like, he wanted money. He wanted money. He wanted cars. Like, the way people give these days is very complicated. How I understand. Oh, wait. I've talked so much and I don't remember the actual question.
The actual question is that we had started on a journey of what motivates you to give.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So today, what motivates me to give is the need for someone out there, like someone out there that might need what I might have in plenty. And I value that thing I have in plenty, because even when it comes to ordinary people and those that at times go out to give, they end up giving out something that either they have in plenty and do not need, or something they've totally used out.
I'm sure as an artist, you have given of your time, of your talent.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give us a brief background of what that felt like, or what that is like to give of your time, of your talent as an artist?
One, I'm not really yet in that space where I'm comfortable being called an artist.
Oh, well done. All right.
I still consider myself a journalist who is closely working with artists. One, I've worked very, very closely with filmmakers more than anyone, but before filmmakers, the very first artist I worked with when I joined the industry, when I joined media, was Kenneth Mugabe. So how I got to meet Kenneth Mugabe was a very, very funny situation. So I go to have a filmmaker. He was called Joseph Ken Sebagala. He was releasing a film called The Reform. And Kenneth Mugabe was doing the music on the film. You know how Ugandan filmmakers work? Because you cannot afford music from different artists. So you tend to work with one, like they sing some boring thing that is all over your entire movie. Like you do not have a variety of, when it's coming out from the building, the mood will be different. So we shall have a rap song. You don't have that. So you just get one person to sing all the songs. So I meet Kenneth, and he tells me, I'm just a new artist. I was on Rated Next, and I was thinking, I need to listen to what he does. So when I got a chance to listen to what he does, I think a week later when he was performing somewhere, I was like, this artist is amazing. So I go and talk to him, and do you have some of your music recorded? He's like, I've recorded about 4 songs, but still trying to compile an album. So we kind of kept in touch. And then when he finished his album, it was released on Kwela Junction, the Crooners. By that time, I think I had met some Kamani, like, okay, not enough, but Kamani to buy an album. So I bought his album, interviewed him, reviewed it, and then also did the interview story. And I became the very first person in the media to interview Kenneth Mugabe. But giving back to an artist, at that time I don't think I had knowledge to give out because I did not know as much as I know right now. So that time I remember picking Kenneth's album, and there is another artist called Apio Moro. Then there was a free. There were about 5. I got their music and started going with it to radio stations, asking them to play these people's music. And like I wasn't their manager or anything. Like I just felt like people need to listen to this music. Of course, all the radio stations I went to refused. Like they told me things like this music doesn't fit our system or something. Yeah, but I tried. And then I think we invited Crystal Newman to an event where Kenneth was performing. And I think, as they say, the rest is history. Like after she saw him perform, the next thing was her getting him on her show. And then when Sanyov started playing his music, of course, other stations were like, oh, there is this music. So they also started playing it. It was very funny with one of the radio stations that called me, and they were like, so there was this artist you came trying to talk about. Do you have the music? And I had left the music just right there. Like I had placed it there. It was well labeled. So that moment I was like, okay, these guys actually threw it in the bin after I had left. Okay, but I still went back and took for them another copy. So for me, I think that was the very first time I gave back to an artist, and I was giving back when I literally had nothing as well.
That's good. That's such a powerful story. And I think our audience can learn from it, because you don't need money to give. You can give of your talent and it will still be enough. Mm-hmm. And you might not see the impact immediately, but as years go by, as months and days, finally you'll see the seed that you planted blossom, especially when it comes to artists.
Yeah.
So the other question I wanted to ask you is, how do you think, or what would your advice be to people that want to give back to artists? How should they start? What does it take to give back to an artist? Because in our community, it's always financial, you know. Give me money for this, give me money for this. You could have a musician like Kenneth Mugabe, and what you gave would, for someone else, would seem so small. But how do you think our community can start investing or giving back to artists? And what would that mean today?
One, I think the very first thing someone has to do when they want to give back to artists is they need to start by purchasing their work, even if it's for the least amount they can think about. Because I remember when, you see how I joined media was, I tried to get into Uganda's leading daily and was rejected. I was like that. No. You don't know what you're doing. I came to Uganda's independent daily and they were like, no, you don't know what you're doing. He went to the biggest weekly at the time, and the receptionist told me if I said anything, we don't have jobs. So I went back home and started a blog. My intention wasn't to this blog will become a big thing. My intention was to wait on until probably I get an opening in Iraq and I go probably fight other people's wars. And I was smaller than I am right now. So you can imagine. So somewhere in between there, someone sees one of my blogs and they decide to republish it. That was in the Observer. So somehow I end up in the newsroom. But when I go to the newsroom, there was this competition where people did not want you to cover their beats because they kind of engulfed them. The sources know them and they don't want a new person in. So that's when I was like, okay, I think I should start covering things people are not covering. So if everyone is going to see Bebe Cool, I should go and see what's happening at the National Theatre. And before I knew, I created a monster out of myself because now everyone wanted to know what's happening in the alternative spaces. And that came down with the way I was writing. People wanted to see what's happening elsewhere besides what's happening at Bebe Cool's space. I had a problem with the way we were writing at that time, that when people wrote about Bebe Cool, they would tell you, he has not finished his house. And I'm thinking, why are we reading about that? Why are we reading about Jose Chameleon's car breaking down at some space because it's broke? Why are we reading about artists being broke in the first place? So I wanted to change the narrative with my writing. So I would go for concerts and I wouldn't write about the concert being full or the concert flopping. But I would just write about what was actually going on stage. Did people sing? Did someone flat in the background? So that's how I carved my niche. But then, of course, back to your question, why I started with all that is, today we want to talk about artists being broke or artists not selling enough. Yet we as journalists have never written a story promoting their art, never written a story to help them improve their art. And above it all, we've never paid for a ticket to go for a show. For me, in my understanding, then we do not even have a right to call these people broke because we are not sure if they are making money anyway. Yeah. So to answer you, any person that wants to support an artist, the very first thing is, please buy that art. Like, you shouldn't be out there pirating Lookman's Girl in the Yellow Jumper. Yet you can actually subscribe to Netflix and watch as many films as you want, including Girl in the Yellow Jumper. Because the next day, if you find Lookman broke, it will be very stupid of you to say he made a film, it went to Netflix, and look at him, he's broke. Like, are you sure he actually made money if you pirated it?
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true. Well, that's a wealth of knowledge, and coming from an artist background and hearing that buying an artist's work matters. They don't want a free hand. Much as we celebrate them, we need to celebrate them in a good light, not look at the negative aspects of their craft, but try and celebrate the positive aspects of their work. And that in itself is giving back to them. You're giving back to their identity, you're giving back to their craft, but also you're telling the public that there is more to this person, more to this person than they're breaking down, which I think is a very powerful message.
For example, when you see a person like a visual artist, let's say, trust me, visual art is very expensive. Like, it's very expensive to buy an art piece that's as big. Like a lay person like me, okay, I don't know if a lay person can, but yeah, a lay person like me cannot afford buying an artwork that big. So most of the time, someone is like, but how can we buy that visual art? It's very expensive. But of course, these artists still do merchandisers. They still do key holders. They still do, like, you can still buy something. You can support in some way, or you can share their next exhibition. Like, I was part of the team that was promoting Jabala. And so someone came and told me, you must have made a lot of money from that exhibition. Share some dollars. And I was like, by the way, I did all that for free. Like, I did all that for free because, one, I believed in their message. I believed in what they were trying to say. And this was the very first time you are having an exhibition done by totally female artists that are from multiple disciplines. And it was curated by a woman who chose a female mentor for the exhibition. And it was happening on Women's Day. Like, what's a better story than that? Yeah. So there are always very, very many ways of supporting artists, even if it's not spending money. But since most people cannot do those other things, probably I can do because I know my way around. They need to buy the art. I do not know of a Ugandan that goes for a full day without listening to a Ugandan song. But was that song purchased?
True. Well, thank you so much. That's such a wealth of information. It makes me look at art differently now, And what you said was stood out for me is that what do you have to share? You have your phone. You can share about the exhibition. Yes, you may not be able to afford the artwork, but you have platforms where you can tell people about the exhibition, like the Njabala exhibition. You can invite people to come to the exhibition. Don't come to the exhibition alone. Carry some people with you. It's not always about the money, but the time, the talent, and the passion always counts. Yeah. Well, Kaggwa, you have really shared with our audience such a wealth of information. I'd like to ask you, who are your role models when it comes to the seeding of generosity in your life, in your profession? Please share with us.
I could say my mom. I think my mom shared and still shares a lot. Even when people disappoint her, it's like she doesn't lose faith in them. So it's like she keeps giving. Well, I don't know if I will be that patient, because I even see it with artists. Like, you try with someone and then you get to that point where you're like, I think I gave all I could to that person. So right now there is this new artist that I believe needs my support more than the other. Like, I feel like my mom doesn't really give up on people. Like, she wants to continue supporting them. Yeah, so when it comes to that, she's my role model.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting to hear of you or of a person in your profession celebrate their mother in that way, because I think sometimes our mothers give too much. And we're like, oh, mommy, when are you going to stop? Like, this is too much.
Yeah.
But they still remind us that to give, you need to have faith. You need to have faith in the people you're giving to. And that makes all the difference. It's not how much you've given them, but it is, have their lives changed? Are they getting better? And not to give up on that and just keep hoping that they'll get better. Lastly, could you share with our audience any lessons about generosity that you have learned over the years that you think they could take home with them?
I'll still go back to what I said. Like, when you give for some reason, you get back. Like, it's not like that's the reason why you're doing it, but you somehow get back. Like, I see, because right now I believe I'm trying to leave the newsroom. Like, I didn't wake up and I was like, now I'm going to leave the newsroom, but I see myself doing more things that are out of the newsroom. Like, people keep calling me for things that are totally out of the newsroom. And these are people I worked with without asking for a pay. Like, I came, gave my knowledge on their film set, told them do this, do that. And they were like, oh, thank you. And years later, they are calling you back because they have a big budget project and they want you to be part of it. Like, for that film where I was supervising, a production supervisor, like, the person called me and insisted, I want you to be on this project. I don't even know what I want you to do, but I want you to be on this project and I want to pay you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think for me, the takeaway is you will always get back, even in plenty, when you give.
It's interesting. Thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing with us. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us about generosity in film, generosity in giving back to artists, what that looks like, for just continuing to seed generosity and giving and saying it's not about money, it's about what you have. What's your God-given talent? How do you use that to impact someone else's life? And the message of faith from your mom, have faith in the people you give to, is I think it will resonate with our audience. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So our audience, we're grateful to Mr. Andrew for sharing with us, and please look out for the next episode about generosity and giving in different art spaces with different art individuals. So thank you so much. Join us for our next episode as we continue to talk about how different artists and creatives are giving back to their communities. We hope that you have been inspired to give of your time, treasure, and talent when it comes to philanthropy within your own community.